Okay, so today we're diving into some sources that you've provided.
Okay.
A couple articles from the South China Morning Post and New Straits Times.
Right.
And then also a YouTube video analysis from Kinitv.
Yeah.
All kind of exploring a similar theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one that a lot of people are thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the impact of a potential second Trump term on Southeast Asian economies, and particularly Malaysia's.
Yeah, that's a big one, right?
So I think you're really interested in seeing how these America First policies,
Yeah.
and especially those tariff threats that are kind of looming out there, how those might actually play out.
Right.
So let's dive in and see what we can uncover.
Sounds good. Yeah, and what's interesting is we're not just dealing with theoretical possibilities here.
Right.
I mean, there is genuine anxiety,
Yeah,
particularly within the tech sector.
absolutely. And the articles really highlight that anxiety.
Yeah.
So let's start with those proposed tariff hikes.
Okay.
I mean, a 25% increase on goods from Canada and Mexico seems pretty drastic.
Yeah.
What's the rationale behind such a significant jump?
Well, Trump has a few concerns that are driving these tariffs. You know, anxieties about the drug trade, migration, and then also this belief that these countries have an unfair trade advantage over the U.S. But what makes this particularly worrisome for Asian economies is the role that Canada and Mexico play in these global supply chains.
You're right. These countries are like key gateways
Exactly.
for Asian products to get into the U.S. market, especially for the tech and auto manufacturers.
Yeah.
So disrupting that flow could have some serious ripple effects.
Exactly. And it's not just Canada and Mexico.
Right.
Trump is also talking about an additional 10% tariff on top of the existing 25% on Chinese goods.
Wow.
So that's potentially a 60% increase.
Yeah.
And this time around, Southeast Asia might not be spared.
Oh.
There's talk of tariffs as high as 20% on their exports to the U.S.,
Wow.
particularly in sectors like semiconductors and electric vehicles.
It's interesting. The SCMP piece tells the story of this Malaysian recruiter,
Oh, yeah.
Joseph Chang,
Okay.
who actually benefited during Trump's first term because Chinese companies were relocating to Malaysia
Right.
to avoid those initial tariffs.
Yeah.
So he had like a surge in recruitment.
Wow.
But now he's worried that these new tariffs might hit Southeast Asia directly.
Yeah.
It really highlights how unpredictable this whole situation is.
It does, and it really underlines the importance of adaptability for businesses operating in this environment.
Right.
I mean, the SCMP article quotes the CEO of 3RAN, which is a Malaysian semiconductor company, as saying,
Okay.
most companies are planning carefully so that they can act aggressively if any announcements or measures come after Trump comes to power.
So they're taking a prepare for the worst, hope for the best approach.
It seems that way.
Yeah. And you mentioned businesses needing to be adaptable.
Yeah.
What kind of strategies are these Malaysian companies actually considering to navigate this potential upheaval?
Well, the Kinitv analysis outlines a couple of intriguing options.
Okay.
One is actually expanding into the U.S. market.
Oh, wow.
So by setting up shop there, they could potentially sidestep those tariffs altogether.
That's a bold move.
It is.
But is that realistic for every company?
Well, certainly wouldn't be easy or cheap.
Right.
It would require significant investment,
Yeah.
navigating regulations, understanding the U.S. market.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are definitely hurdles there.
So the other strategy, maybe a little bit more attainable for some, is diversifying their clientele.
Right.
So if the U.S. market becomes less accessible,
Yeah,
they need to find new markets for their product.
exactly.
But isn't the U.S. market crucial for a lot of these tech firms?
It is.
How realistic is it to find alternative markets that can kind of match that scale?
That's a valid point. The U.S. is a huge market.
Yeah.
Finding alternatives won't be simple.
Right.
Some companies are looking towards Europe or within Asia itself. But those markets come with their own set of challenges and complexities.
Right. So it's not just Malaysia that's feeling the heat.
No.
Thailand and Vietnam also benefited from that U.S.-China trade war during Trump's first term, when Chinese companies were looking to relocate their operations.
Right.
Are they also concerned about kind of being caught in the crossfire this time?
Absolutely. The worry is that these tariffs, combined with this whole America First agenda, could trigger a decline in exports across Southeast Asia, scare off foreign investors, and even stall the development of new industries in the region.
Okay, so let's unpack this America First agenda a little bit more.
Okay.
So it's all about revitalizing American manufacturing, bringing jobs back to the U.S.,
Right.
even if it means disrupting global trade.
Yeah.
How might this reshape the global trade landscape?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And what does it mean for Asian economies that are seeking to engage with the U.S.?
I think that's where the geopolitical implications really come into play. If Trump doubles down on this agenda, it could force Asian economies to look beyond the U.S. And forge these new partnerships.
Interesting.
So we might see them strengthening ties with China.
Right.
Or even exploring opportunities within regional blocs like ASEAN.
Now, ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, plays a critical role here.
They do.
Especially with Malaysia as the upcoming chair. They could act as a shield against these superpower rivalries.
Exactly.
And provide a platform for dialogue.
Right. And the Kinitv analysis suggests a potentially groundbreaking move.
Oh.
ASEAN inviting both President Xi Jinping and possibly even President Trump to participate in their talks.
Wow.
Imagine the implications of bringing these two powerhouses to the table for open dialogue.
It would certainly send a strong message.
It would.
About ASEAN's commitment to regional stability.
Yeah.
And their desire to navigate these complex geopolitical waters. But with Trump's focus on the U.S. dollar, there's another layer of uncertainty for Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
He's issued warnings about punishing countries that move away from using the dollar.
That's right.
What's at stake for Malaysia and its neighbors if they're pressured to stick with the dollar?
Well, that's a key point.
Yeah.
And this is where understanding this concept of dollar dominance becomes really crucial. You see, most international trade is conducted in U.S. dollars.
Right.
And many countries hold significant reserves of U.S. dollars. And this gives the U.S. a lot of influence over global finance.
So if Asian economies try to move away from the dollar, they risk facing economic penalties from the U.S.
Potentially, but it's a complex situation.
Right.
If the U.S. dollar weakens, which some analysts predict, sticking with it could also harm these economies.
So how could a weakening dollar actually hurt them?
Well, a lot of it has to do with those dollar-denominated loans that we mentioned earlier.
Right.
Many Southeast Asian nations have loans that they need to repay in U.S. dollars.
Yeah.
And if their local currencies weaken against the dollar, those debts become much, much harder to manage.
Right.
It's like trying to pay off a loan in a currency that just keeps getting more expensive.
So they're stuck between a rock and hard place.
Pretty much.
Risk those U.S. penalties for ditching the dollar or struggle to manage those debts if it weakens.
Exactly. And that pressure from the U.S. might actually, ironically, push them towards exploring alternative currencies for international trade.
Oh, interesting.
And we've already seen some countries, including Malaysia, expressing interest in using other currencies, like the Chinese yuan.
The yuan, so that's China's currency.
Yes, the yuan is China's currency.
Yeah.
And if Southeast Asian nations start using it more frequently for trade, it could have significant geopolitical implications.
Right.
It would strengthen their economic ties with China, potentially shifting the region's economic and political landscape.
It's interesting how actions that are intended to strengthen American influence could inadvertently push Southeast Asian nations closer to China.
Yeah.
It really underscores the complexity of these global dynamics.
It certainly does, and it brings us back to the crucial role of ASEAN as a unified bloc.
Right.
They have more leverage in navigating these complex geopolitical currents.
Yeah.
Malaysia, as the upcoming chair, has a really unique opportunity to lead this conversation.
They could potentially set the agenda for discussions, act as a mediator between the U.S. and China.
Exactly.
We were even talking earlier about that Kinitv analysis, suggesting that they might even invite both President Xi and President Trump to participate in those talks.
That's right.
That would be a remarkable diplomatic feat.
It would.
It would signal to the world that ASEAN is really committed to maintaining this open dialogue and regional stability amidst all of these global power struggles. It's almost like ASEAN could serve as a buffer zone. Preventing the region from being pulled too far in one direction or the other.
That's a great way to put it. They have the potential to chart a more independent course, prioritizing regional cooperation and economic stability, over aligning too closely with any one superpower.
But let's be realistic. ASEAN is a diverse group of nations.
Yes.
With their own unique interests and priorities. Can they truly present a united front?
Right.
When facing pressure from both the U.S. and China?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's something that we'll be watching very closely as the situation unfolds.
Let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And delve a bit deeper into the potential consequences of Trump's America First policies for specific sectors within Southeast Asia.
Okay.
That SCMP article really highlighted the anxieties of Malaysian tech firms facing those potential new tariffs.
Right.
What are some of their biggest concerns?
Well, their main worry is losing access to the U.S. market. It's a huge export destination for Malaysian tech companies.
Okay.
And if those tariffs are imposed, their products become less competitive and they risk losing market share.
And that's where those alternative strategies that we talked about earlier come in.
Exactly.
Expanding into the U.S. to avoid those tariffs altogether.
Right.
Or diversifying by finding new markets outside the U.S. But another path is without its challenges.
It's true.
Expanding into the U.S. requires a significant financial commitment. And a deep understanding of the American market.
Absolutely.
Diversification takes time and effort. And there's no guarantee of finding markets that can match the scale and profitability of that U.S. market.
It's a tough situation.
It sounds like there are no easy answers here.
There really aren't.
And it's not just the tech industry that's vulnerable.
No, it's not.
The Kinitv analysis also mentioned potential impacts on other key Malaysian export sectors, like palm oil and textiles.
You're absolutely right. And let's not forget the potential impact on foreign investment. If investors perceive Southeast Asia as becoming less stable or predictable due to all of these trade tensions, they might be hesitant to invest in the region.
Yeah. That could have a ripple effect on economic growth.
It could.
Particularly for countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam that have really relied heavily on foreign investment to fuel their development.
Precisely, the potential consequences of Trump's policies are far-reaching, with the potential to impact individual businesses, national economies, even regional stability.
So it's a complex web of cause and effect.
It is.
And we're really just beginning to see how it all plays out.
Right.
This brings us back to that earlier question. With the global landscape potentially shifting so dramatically, how does this reshape our understanding of international business and investment opportunities?
It's a crucial question to ponder. We're entering an era of increased uncertainty and volatility, where adaptability and strategic foresight will be paramount. Those who can anticipate and respond to change will be the ones who thrive in this evolving landscape.
So as we navigate this new terrain, it's essential to stay informed, critically analyze the information we receive, and be prepared to adjust our strategies as needed.
Absolutely.
But before we conclude this deep dive, let's recap some of the key takeaways for you.
Certainly, first and foremost, the return of Donald Trump and his America First agenda presents significant challenges and uncertainties for Southeast Asian economies, especially Malaysia. The potential for trade tensions, financial instability, and shifting geopolitical alliances are all major concerns that businesses and investors need to be aware of.
Absolutely.
However, amidst these challenges, there are also opportunities. ASEAN, with Malaysia at the helm, has the potential to play a pivotal role in promoting dialogue stability and regional cooperation. How they navigate these complexities will be fascinating to watch.
And for businesses and investors, adaptability, strategic diversification, and a keen understanding of this evolving global landscape will be essential for navigating this new era.
Absolutely.
We've seen from the sources you provided that there are many different perspectives and potential outcomes to consider.
It's a complex and dynamic situation.
It is.
Staying engaged and informed as events continue to unfold will be vital for making informed decisions.
Now, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts.
Okay.
When we return, we'll leave you with a final thought-provoking question to consider.
Sounds good.
As you continue to explore these complex global dynamics. All right, so we're back. And I think it's safe to say we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From those tariff threats and supply chain disruptions to the potential for maybe even a shift away from the U.S. dollar. And the crucial role of ASEAN in navigating kind of these turbulent waters. I can really tell that you're thinking deeply about how all of these global events could impact Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it's a fascinating and concerning topic.
Absolutely. And you're right to be paying attention. I mean, the decisions made by political leaders, the strategies adopted by businesses in the coming months and years are really going to shape the future of this region.
They will.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, we want to leave you with something to ponder.
All right.
A question that goes beyond, the immediate headlines and the immediate challenges.
All right.
Something that might spark your own strategic thinking about the future.
I like it.
So we've talked a lot about the potential downsides of Trump's policies.
Right.
But what if we kind of flip the script?
Okay.
What if these disruptions to these traditional power structures actually create new opportunities?
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
We've already touched on how maybe a shift away from the U.S. dollar might benefit some countries. But what other possibilities could emerge from this?
Well, think about it. If the U.S. retreats from global trade and these regional alliances like ASEAN gain more prominence, could we see the rise of new economic hubs within Asia?
Interesting.
Hubs driven by innovation and collaboration, less reliant on those traditional power structures.
So we're talking about maybe a more multipolar world.
Potentially.
Where power is more evenly distributed.
Yeah.
A world where Southeast Asia actually plays a more central role in shaping global affairs.
It's a possibility.
These are complex questions.
They are.
And there are no easy answers.
Not at all.
But by engaging with these ideas and staying informed about this evolving dynamic of global trade and geopolitics, you can better understand the forces at play and position yourself to navigate this changing world.
Absolutely.
Who knows? You might even find yourself at the forefront of some exciting new opportunities.
I like that.
So we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and sparked some new ways of thinking about the future of Southeast Asia in this ever-shifting global landscape.
Absolutely always evolving.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring.
Couldn't agree more.